Good afternoon, all, and thank you for joining me today to listen to a relatively brief overview of the Coral Expeditions Cape York and Arnhem Land cruise series that includes the Torres Strait and the beauty of the Northern Great Barrier Reef and associated islands. My name is Will, and I'm a member of the Coral Expeditions sales team. Joining me today, we're lucky to have a relatively new recruit to the Coral Expedition team, Goyma Gondarra, and he'll be providing his unique commentary on some of the main highlights across this expedition cruise series. And he's the perfect embodiment of a Coral Expedition guest lecturer and chosen for his specific expertise in Arnhem Land and the wider region. And I'll introduce you to him further shortly. If you've got any questions throughout this presentation, then please feel free to pop these into the chat function on your computer. And between Goyma and myself, we'll attempt to answer as many of these as we can, time permitting, at the end of the presentation. Coral Expedition is Australia's pioneering expedition cruise operator, sailing for 40 years now. Our fleet of 3 specialised expedition ships and tenders take guests to some of the most beautiful yet undiscovered islands and coastal regions of the world. Our travellers are attracted by our relaxed, small ship atmosphere and itineraries that larger ships simply cannot replicate. At a time when the cruise industry is moving to larger and less personal ships, we've limited the size of our vessels to maximise the expedition experience. Our cuisine is prepared small batch on board using quality Australian produce and wine, and we operate to high Australian standards of safety. And with an all Australian and New Zealand crew wherever we cruise, we can ensure that true Australian expedition experience that Coral are known for providing, be that in the Kimberley, here in Cape York and Arnhem Land, or beyond in domestic and international waters. We were also the first to offer interpretive programs reflective of the destinations we visit, and to employ expedition leaders, guest lecturers, marine biologists, and scuba instructors. And it's a tradition that continues today. So for those of you who have cruised with Coral Expeditions previously, be that in the Kimberley or beyond, you'll already be aware of the style of expedition product we offer, both on board, but also whilst exploring the stunning destinations we visit. As mentioned, we've been in business now for 40 years. And for those 40 years, we've been taking groups of like-minded explorers to remote destinations with expert guidance and that warm, relaxed Australian hospitality. For those new to Coral Expeditions, it's worth stating right away that if you're looking for that big ship experience with multiple bars and restaurants and nightclubs and casinos, then the Coral Expedition product is probably not what you're looking for. Instead, we offer an informal, relaxed onboard experience with no need to dress formally for dinner, no assigned seating, and no formal onboard entertainment outside our schedule of lectures and presentation from our guest lecturer and expedition leader team, and obviously specific to the waters in which you cruise. We actively encourage an open interaction between guests and crew, and our open bridge policy allows regular interactions with the captain. And there's plenty of both in and outdoor areas to relax and enjoy the stunning scenery drift by, usually, I must say, with a glass of wine or a cheeky G&T in hand. The onboard guest experience is at its core built around 2 main areas: the delicious culinary and wine experience and the schedule of guest lectures and presentations from our onboard experts. The aim being that you can fully immerse yourselves in the flora, fauna, history, geology, and cultures of the places we visit, whilst also enjoying some of the best food and wine that Australia has to offer. The whole ethos of the company is to focus on the stunning destinations we visit rather than the ship itself, a very different prospect from some of the big ship cruise lines out there. We offer a minimum of 2 shore excursions daily and utilise our trademark and unique explorer tenders, which I'll come on to shortly, to ensure your time is really maximised ashore, with no waiting or queuing. Our guests, our shore excursions are also tailored to all, no matter the levels of fitness. And so we offer our guests anything from a strenuous walk or hike to a site of interest or viewpoint, through to a gentler beachcomb or exploration of the area. In suitable locations, we also offer the choice of staying aboard our Explorer tenders to cruise through the bays, creeks, rivers, and coastlines for those not inclined to head ashore. The point being that we offer a range of shore excursion opportunities to fit all fitness requirements and specific areas of interest. And again, all shore excursions are accompanied by our expert expedition team. We do not outsource to third parties, meaning we can guarantee that the quality of the ashore expedition experience. So Coral Expeditions, as mentioned, was one of the first cruise operators to employ interpretive guides on our cruises, and each trip includes a mix of our full-time guest lecturers who join the expedition team and special guest lecturers like Goyma today, who are chosen for specific local knowledge and expertise. Your cruise will be led by a dedicated expedition leader who will work closely with the captain to determine our daily program, ensuring that the best use is made of prevailing weather and tidal conditions. Your expedition leader will join all shore excursions and activities, provide daily recaps and briefings, and is always on hand to answer any questions that you may have. The expedition team, in short, uses our ship's shallow draft, quick disembarkation capabilities, our special tender equipment such as the Explorers and Zodiacs, and our open deck spaces on board to take you up close and personal to the places that we visit. And so now we move to one of the most important facets of any coral expedition cruise, our Explorer tenders, and mentioned pretty heavily previously. Our Explorers have been purpose designed and built by Coral to provide the perfect conduit between our ships and the remote regions we visit, be that in the Kimberley or here in Cape York and Arnhem Land, but on all our domestic and international itineraries. And it is something that no other cruise line, domestic or international, can offer. Our Explorers are really easy to board, directly from the deck with no steps or ladders to contend with before being lowered gently into the water. And they provide comfortable padded seating, a full audio system to assist our guides in sharing their expert commentary. A canopy overhead protects you from the tropical sun. Again, particularly crucial when we sail in these hot tropical waters. And there's a toilet on board for remote convenience. This might not sound like a big deal, but it is crucial to avoid having to constantly head back to the mothership and potentially avoids the need to find a suitable bush or have a quick dip in the ocean. In short, our Explorers are crucial in allowing us to deliver that true expedition product. They allow easy access not only to beach and harbour landings, but provide the perfect option for exploring the bays, rivers and coastlines, as well as doubling up as an excellent scuba and snorkel platform where applicable. They allow us to on and off board our entire ship's complement in under 15 minutes, which again means more time spent enjoying the areas that you've paid a considerable amount of money to experience. The Explorers are equipped with 2 powerful engines, can reach speeds of up to 25 knots, and it allows us to cover large distances in far more comfort than the Zodiacs or Tinnies, in effect, that are utilised by other cruise lines. However, it would be wrong not to mention said Zodiac inflatables. So whilst we utilise the Explorers, we'll also utilise the more traditional Zodiacs when required. And it's up to our guests to feel how adventurous or not that they want to be, but utilised in conjunction with the Explorer tenders, we can offer that true expedition experience that Coral are known for providing, be that in the Kimberley, in Cape York and Northern Australian waters, or internationally and domestically. So moving on to the ship, for the Cape York and Arnhem Land cruise series, we're going to be cruising aboard Coral Discoverer, our smaller expedition yacht, designed to take you to destinations that are genuinely inaccessible to larger vessels. Her shallow draft and maneuverability make her highly versatile, and she's the perfect vessel to explore the remote coastline of Northern Australia. She boasts ocean views from all public spaces, all outward-facing staterooms, some with private balconies, and state-of-the-art tools for exploration, including the trademark Explorers, Zodiacs, and kayaks. Her Explorer bar and adjacent sun deck lounge has a 360-degree view, and I really loved features of Coral Discoverer. And with only carrying 72 passengers, she offers an intimate expedition experience that larger ships, again, just cannot replicate. So moving on, we are lucky to be joined by one of the more recent additions to Coral Expeditions, Goyma Gondarra. Goyma is a member of the Guatemala clan of the Yolngu people of northeast Arnhem Land in the NT, and is the ideal colleague to provide his insight into this particular expedition cruise series where Indigenous cultures, art and lands feature heavily. Goyma's education began in Arnhem Land before continuing in both Darwin and Fiji, where he picked up yet another language to add to his existing knowledge of a variety of Arnhem Land languages, and probably crucially for most of us today, English. In addition to working with Coral Expeditions, Goyma continues the long Indigenous association with the Australian Army through the Regional Force Surveillance Unit of Northern Australia. And in the future, he hopes to promote the traditional cultural values of the Yolngu people, and Coral Expeditions are genuinely lucky to have him, and he is the perfect embodiment, like I say, of the onboard local expertise Coral are known for providing. So thank you for joining us here today. Goyma, are you online?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
I can absolutely hear you. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to move rapidly into our first our itinerary that we're going to be focusing on today, and then I'll hand over to you just to cover some of the main highlights, relatively brief highlights of each itinerary. So moving on to the first expedition cruise itinerary, the Cape York to Arnhem Land, 11 nights, Cairns to Darwin, departing in March each year. The focus is on the ancient Indigenous cultures and prehistoric landscapes of Australia's northern coastline on a beautiful, voyage of discovery that takes you far off the beaten track in Arnhem Land to the very tip of Australia at Cape York and into the Torres Strait. You'll experience traditions unchanged for centuries, sacred rock art and remote lands and communities only permitted accessible by a very fortunate few. You'll get to learn and understand the songlines and lore that shape this ancient culture, and allow your expert guides to interpret ancient rock art and see how generations have passed on these artistic traditions, and how this is so important to their cultural legacy being kept alive today. Coral Expeditions has had the privilege of introducing guests to this remarkable culture for over 3 decades now. So guests receive a very personal experience conducted with the utmost respect and cultural sensitivity. So Goyma, straight into some of the first highlights. Let me know and I'll move between the slides.
Oh, yes. One of the things about Cape York and Arnhem trip is to see these remote areas that you get to go and visit these remote areas and see this beautiful culture and the knowledge of the people and how people have lived in these areas and have adapted within the land and the nature itself, and passing that knowledge to the younger generations that are coming up, just like me, carrying that that torch that have been taught by our elders to share this knowledge about Arnhem Land and the region. If you could forward to the next slide. So yeah, going into Arnhem Land, visiting these areas, especially coming down from Darwin, starting off, and coming down with the Tiwi Islands, seeing the art and the culture, and also not only Indigenous culture, but also the European side of things as well. So you have in Coburg Peninsula, you have the historical sites that has been settled by the Europeans. That was a failed settlement. So yeah, just all these historic sites, and not only European but also the Macassan people that came from Sulawesi. If you could go to the next slide. Yes, as I was saying, visiting these areas, remote areas in Arnhem Land, and seeing these areas with your own eyes, because it gets very hard to go to these places because it's so remote. Whereas with this company, with Coral Expedition, you get to see this place up in close, and you get to experience the culture, the people, and you get to know and learn the history of Arnhem Land, the Indigenous side, and also the European side of Arnhem Land as well. If you could move to the next slide. And also looking at very ancient rock arts that you'll be seeing. Not only rock arts, but also what we call bark paintings that old people used to do back in the olden days, when they used to talk about stories, when they used to talk about songlines, because we didn't have books or anything that we could do. We would use something like rock arts to record things that the old people saw, and the old people taught the children's and the community members as well. If you could go to the next slide. And also, once we are done with Arnhem Land, finishing off through Arnhem Land, and we move on to Cape York and Thursday Island, which is a very different culture to where I'm from, and you get to see that as well. The different cultures, the different clan groups in the different islands, and you get to see this these areas, and not only the Indigenous side of it, but also the European side of it as well. You get to see all these areas. Move to the next. So yeah, as I was talking about Cape York, it's one of the areas that I love. As a younger person from Arnhem Land, coming along to this area is really very good to see this area where you get to see it's kind of different from Arnhem Land. So it changes from Arnhem Land up to the areas in Cape York, and going through these places in not only through culture and through language, but also through landscape and also wildlife as well. Go to the next slide.
Cool. And also, I'll take over on this one. So on all our trips, depending on starting on Cairns or Darwin, We have some of the highlights of the northern Great Barrier Reef up to Cape York from Cairns. We cover this in a separate Torres Strait and Cape York itinerary, which we'll come on to shortly in the presentation, rather than doubling up. But on either one of our Cape York and Arnhem Lands, be it the standalone series or the arc-focused itinerary coming on to shortly, you get the opportunity to cruise the waters of Torres Strait, Cape York, and some of the islands and reefs of the Northern Barrier Reef. But yeah, we'll come on to that shortly. So moving swiftly on to our next itinerary, the Cape York and Arnhem Land art series, and it's an 11 nights Cairns to Darwin, departing in October each year. You'll see from the map and the itinerary, it's practically identical to the previous Cape York and Arnhem Land cruise we just went over. All the major highlights are still included, and the only real difference with this itinerary is the particular focus on the Indigenous art of the region, and we delve even deeper into the art and cultures of the region, with the added benefit of onboard Indigenous guest artists who will run workshops and demonstrations to encourage that deep understanding of the art and cultures of this really remote part of Australia. The itinerary, on its own, it looks very, very similar, like I say, but it just has that more of an art focus than the standalone Cape York and Arnhem Land cruise series. So moving swiftly on, just a couple of the highlights, and over to you, Goyma, again.
Yeah, as I was saying, you get to experience these beautiful, amazing, one of the oldest culture in Arnhem Land, that you get to see all these different cultures in Arnhem Land, and what the old people, that knowledge that they give us, not to us, but also to non-Indigenous people as well. It's all about what we want to do is we want to embrace culture, but also we want to share it to the rest of the world as well. And that's what I love about doing this Cape York and Arnhem Land trip. And you get to see especially if you're interested in bark paintings or canvas paintings, you get to go to these remote areas where these old people do amazing art that they do. And it's not just you're not looking at art, but also you're looking at one of the oldest storytelling that it's written in the bark paintings here. Can we go to the next slide, William? Yep. So yeah, that knowledge about the old people passing down to the younger generations, and also you get to see them in person, and to they'll talk you through it, how they used to make art paintings. As you can see, they're making bandana mats that was that my people would use in the olden days to put things like fish and many other things that was used used in the olden days, but now it is more of selling it, so it can contributes to the different communities in Arnhem Land and also in Cape York. Next slide, please. So yeah, not only experiencing culture, but also you get to experience wildlife as well when we go out for excursions. We get to go to these areas that is very remote, and you get to see a lot of wildlife around the area that you don't see in other parts of the area, which is very fascinating to see, especially if it's your first time going to these remote areas, especially in Arnhem Land and in Cape York as well. And also you get to have that, we get to, as guest lecturers, we get to talk you through it within the landscape and the wildlife, but also for a person like me as an Indigenous person, you'll get to hear the Indigenous side of things, of how we used to maintain the land and how the land provided for us and how we interacted with the land and the nature. Can we go to the next slide? So yeah, just visiting these areas, remote areas, and like I was saying, you get to see these amazing art in these remote community areas, and that is done by all the artists. So you get to see the artists themselves, and you get to hear their story and hear what the painting on that particular artwork means, and the story that tells for different clan groups, different moieties, and different totems and different song groups and stuff like that. We get to see these amazing artwork in the Tiwi Islands and also in the areas in Arnhem Land, as well as Cape York, as well in places like Thursday Island and Bardo Island, and also not forgetting Bukulange, which is in Irikala. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah. So yeah, as I was saying, you get to learn with the artists themselves about how they make things to do there, whether it is art painting on a bark, or whether it is making pandana leaves and preparing it and making it as a basket. So you get to see this with the old people, as they would get to learn a lot as you go to these remote areas in Arnhem Land and also in Cape York. Next slide.
And I'll jump in here actually on this slide, Goyma. Goyma mentioned so all three of the trips that we're kind of highlighting in it as part of this Cape York and Arnhem Land cruise series, obviously, all touch the tip of Cape York, Australia's northernmost point of the mainland. And it no matter which trip you're on, art focused or the shorter Torres Strait and Cape York itinerary, which I'm coming on to shortly, we get to spend time. We time it to arrive at Cape York after the crowds, when sunset is fast approaching, and we have a kind of champagne event right on the northern tip. It's a beautiful event that we've been doing for years now, and it will be a true highlight of your trip. And then back to you, Goyma.
Yes, and you get to, as we move along from seeing the different things, seeing the different cultures, the artwork, the songs, the dance, as we'll be moving along from Arnhem Land coming up to Cape York, you get to experience another different culture, um, which is the Torres Strait Island people, and also the people, the Aboriginal people, the Indigenous people, also in the coastal areas as well. But what I love about going to places like Thursday Island is you get to go to this little island. You get to um, experience their culture and to hear their story and their side of things as well. And you get to go, not only you'll get to go to different places within Thursday Island. So you got the War Memorial, and you also got the art center there that's done by the Torres Strait Island artists, and you get to purchase these amazing Torres Strait artwork in this area as well. Go to the next slide.
All right, and I'll take over again. So as mentioned, all three of these itineraries we get to reach the tip of Cape York there, and have a little bit of a champagne toast as the sun sets. But we all get to experience some of the most beautiful stretches of the Northern Great Barrier Reef on our final itinerary, highlighted today, that the Torres Strait and Cape York. So perfect for those if you don't have the full amount of nights to jump on our full Cape York and Arnhem Land itineraries. We have a 10-night Cairns and Horn Island, so vice versa, departing in October each year, but October next year in 2024. It's a small ship adventure to explore the mystical Torres Strait Islands and the remote coastlines right up to the tip of Cape York. Departing, like I say, in October next year, 2024, from both Cairns and Horn Islands. It's a small, intimate expedition that takes in small islands and reefs of the Great Barrier Reef, Cape York coastal walks, and the beauty of our rarely seen Torres Strait Islands. With almost 300 islands dotted across this narrow stretch of water between Cape York and PNG, the people of the Torres Strait Islands have a distinct and really vibrant culture, and an expedition by small ship is the ideal way to access these remote regions, visiting uninhabited sand caves, remote islands, and pristine reef systems. And our expert guides will share their knowledge both above and below the water, with decades of experience and, like I say, deep respect for the communities of the region. Coral will facilitate a beautiful journey, and it's accompanied and hosted by local elders who will share the customs and stories of this ancient part of the world. So just rapidly moving on to a few of the major highlights. So Thursday and Beidou Island, Goyma's already covered a little bit, but we get on this particular itinerary a really informative tour, and I'm talking Thursday Island now, to learn about the interesting pearling history and multicultural influences, as well as a renowned art centre on Beidou Island. We also have plenty of time to explore all the islands have to offer, including the Gab Tutui, I think that's pronounced, cultural centre, and loads of local kind of shopping opportunities as well. Cape York, as we've mentioned, a particular highlight for many. We enjoy sundowner drinks and the company of like-minded explorers, and we relax and watch the sun gently sink below the horizon of the tip of Cape York, whilst enjoying a said glass of something crispy. Moving on to Osprey Reef, I speak from personal experience when it's some of the best snorkeling and particularly scuba diving that I've personally ever done. It's in a practically pristine state. The diversity of marine life under the water at Osprey is absolutely spectacular. If any of you are keen scuba divers, absolutely, this is where you should be prioritizing getting in the water. But again, there's a plethora of snorkel opportunities throughout this particular itinerary. So moving on to Lizard and Forbes Island. So look, we get the chance with Lizard to explore one of the most beautiful islands in the Queensland coast. You get to enjoy swimming, many opportunities to swimming and snorkeling, or take a walk along on the white sand beach. The more energetic can join our guides on a walk up to Cook's Lookout. You can see here on the screen. The highest lookout on this part of the reef, and from this high point, Captain Cook back in the day was able to navigate a safe passage back through the treacherous waters after repairing his ship, the Endeavour, near Cooktown nearly 200 years ago now. It's a photographer's delight. The views from the lookout are magnificent. And whilst on Forbes Island, you'll have a full day of exploring the island. Again, an excellent spot for swimming or snorkeling. The pristine sandy beaches. You'll hear the story of the Beche de Mer fisherman, Frederick Lancaster, who inhabited this island, and visit his gravesite. And depending on the tides, we'll visit the remote Piper Islands for more bird watching and beach combing. Or again, depending on tidal and weather conditions, the island's home of the so-called $1 million castaway David Glashan at Restoration Island. And you might have read his book that was released a few years or so ago now, but he's always usually pretty welcoming when we turn up on his doorstep. It's also here that Captain Bligh of the infamous mutiny on the Bounty made his first landfall after a very long ocean crossing from Tonga back in 1789. Moving on to Stanley Island, and Davy Cay. So we get the chance to visit Stanley in the Flinders Group, view the Andean Aboriginal rock art gallery with interpretation by one of the traditional custodian of the region there. It's a really unique art site, very seldom visited due to its highly remote and isolated location. Believe it or not, it depicts sailing ships from previous centuries. And we also, as particular to this highlighted itinerary, get plenty of opportunity to have a remote snorkel on the remote and pristine Davy Reef, pretty much adjacent to the island, and tide permitting, land on the Cay to observe the epic bird life, particularly during the nesting seasons there. And yeah, the bird life here on the Barrier Reef and Davy Cay in particular is again one of the true highlights of this particular cruise series. And then moving towards the end or the start, depending on where you board, of this particular trip, we get to visit historic Cooktown, where Captain Cook took refuge during his initial voyage of discovery. It's where he careened his ship before moving on to complete his expedition. We get to embark on a guided walk led by, again, our expedition team along the Esplanade. We learn about the history of the town. A Cooktown coach tour is also available as required. And we have a Indigenous welcome and ceremony at the wharf that tells the story of the Gungu people in hand-painted tiles, and the views from Grassy Hill over the Endeavour Reef are also spectacular to kind of finish your day there. Trips to the Cooktown Museum to examine the relics of Australia's exploration era also on the cards, which brings us towards the end of our presentation, guys. As mentioned at the beginning, it's a relatively brief overview of three quite unique expedition cruise itineraries. But if you're looking to experience the best of what North Australia has to offer, then absolutely reach out to your travel agent, reach out to our reservations team based up in Cairns on the email or the number on the screen. We've been working with our travel agent partners for decades now, so again, please feel free to work with them as well. We're going to go through a few questions now that have been popping through for the duration of the presentation. Most of the ones I think I can answer, Goyma, but I might trouble you for some information as required. But look, in short, thank you for joining us today. A big thank you to you, Goyma, for providing your insight into the Cape York Arnhem Land region. And let's just move on to a few questions. So, look, first of all, and I get this asked pretty frequently, how fit do I need to be to fully take advantage of a coral expedition itinerary? So I touched on it briefly earlier. On all our shore excursions, we offer a range of activities. So there will always be an option, no matter if you're someone that wants to go for a vigorous and more strenuous walk up to a viewpoint or scenic headland, or you're someone that wants to have a gentle beachcomb or a gentle walk and exploration of the area. We've got the options of our Explorer tenders and Zodiac inflatables as well. And also the kayaks, and for people that want to, just laze on the beach or go for a snorkel, there's always going to be an excursion activity or option that will cater to your needs, basically. Do I need snorkel gear? Whilst absolutely you're welcome to bring your own if you have it, or excuse me, on any applicable trip where snorkeling is an option, Coral Expeditions will provide you with a set at the beginning of said cruise itinerary, and it's yours to utilize for the duration of the trip. We'll also provide you with beach towels as well, so there's no need to bring your home from there. Segueing into that on the scuba diving. So coral are relatively rare in an expedition company that offers scuba diving opportunities, where applicable. On this particular section of the trip, the northern Great Barrier Reef, I'm sure doesn't need to be sold to most of you listening in at home. It's a spectacular area to swim, snorkel and scuba dive. Osprey Reef, like I touched on briefly earlier, is truly a spectacular scuba dive location, and I encourage any of you who are scuba dive qualified to make sure you reach out to your travel agent or our reservation team direct to let us know that you're intending to dive, and we can ensure that the full equipment and guides are ready and waiting when we turn up at some of these destinations. Laundry, yes, we do offer laundry. It's one of the few additional charges, but yes, we offer a laundry service on board. It is at an additional cost. Wi-Fi always get asked. So 6 months or so ago, I would have said that our Wi-Fi wasn't particularly great, particularly in some of these more remote areas that we predominantly cruise in. We've spent a small fortune in the last 6 months. Not that Elon Musk needs the money, but yeah, spent a small fortune rolling out Starlink technology across the entire Coral Expeditions fleet. I've been told from our colleagues and crew on board that it's now a faster speed than our head office speeds based up in Cairns. We provide our standard Wi-Fi package included in the cost that we've already charged anybody booked on this particular trips, and that standard Wi-Fi is easily good enough for posting photos, keeping in contact with friends and family. If you're one of the unlucky people that has to work and take important phone calls and emails, or one of the rare people that finds the time on any of our trips to watch Netflix binges and movies, then you might want to upgrade to our premium Wi-Fi package to enable those there's quick download speeds and full connectivity. But for the vast majority of our guests, no matter how remote the region, our standard included Wi-Fi package is more than suitable. Drones, are you allowed to fly drones? So the short answer is no, without the prior permission of Coral Expeditions and the onboard captain of the particular vessel you're on. Many of the kind of World Heritage Islands and national park areas that we go to flat out ban drones and drone photography. There are certain places on land on some of our excursions where, yes, that would potentially be an option. But whilst on board and whilst in these kind of more fragile, protected national park areas, it would be a flat no. Luggage. I always get asked, this one is, are there any luggage restrictions whilst you're on board? Again, the short answer is no. I've witnessed many kind of boarding procedures in Cairns and Darwin in various ports, and I've been shocked at some people will turn up with the bare minimum, basically carry on luggage for their kind of 10-day or longer trip. And I've seen the other end of the stick where people turn up with multiple suitcases per person for what is not a particularly long trip. So and everything in between. The short answer is no. There's no luggage restrictions whatsoever. Bear in mind that it is a really relaxed, informal, kind of laid back, but still very, very premium onboard experience. You don't need to be bringing your tuxedos and ball gowns unless you want to. And so, yeah, pack accordingly at the end of the day. That, I think, brings us up to the end of any of the questions that you guys have submitted. So, yeah, look, just in conclusion, as I don't want to go too far over our 45-minute window, thank you for joining us again. A big thank you to Goyma for providing your insight, as mentioned, mate. And if you're looking for that uniquely Australian small ship cruise to some of Northern Australia's most remote and culturally unique islands and hard to access mainland regions, whilst being able to delve deeply into the history, culture, flora, fauna, art and geography of this amazing part of Australia, then feel free to reach out to us for more details, and we hope to welcome you aboard soon. Our website contains a wealth of additional information on all our expedition cruise destinations, not just Cape York and Arnhem Land today. So please peruse to your heart's content, and when ready, you can reach out to our lovely Cairns-based reservations team, or again, speak to your own travel agent as required. Thank you once again. Have a lovely afternoon, and I wish you a good rest of your day. Cheers, guys.